This is India's number one news network, and you're watching News9, English news as it should be.
Hello and a very warm welcome. Thanks for tuning in to this special coverage of In Your Interest. A big verdict that has now come out from the Supreme Court seems to be a big relief for the animal lovers. The stray dog problem. People are saying, let's not use the word menace anymore because the Supreme Court has come out and said that this is a problem that we need to take a look at. But where do we go on from here? The August 11th diktat, which many people had said was a little bit of an overreach coming from the Supreme Court, that has now been modified by this three-judge bench. Several of those distinctions from the August 11th order and what is going to be prevalent now. And of course, are we going to look at the end of this problem or not? People that are joining me here are major stakeholders on this process. Joining me on the broadcast is Divya Puri, the co-founder of the Karan Puri Foundation. Ditej is also with us, works with the Earthlings Trust. That's another co-founder with us. And Manvi Rai is with us, representing the Udgam Foundation. A very warm welcome to you, all of you. Let's get the snowball rolling here, Divya. First and foremost, the ruling that came in today, the salient features. Is there still some areas where you would want some clarification now? Because the Supreme Court says that the NGOs need to come here together. We have to meet each other halfway. And of course, there is going to be, it's been put into abeyance. The dogs that have been neutered, that have been vaccinated, are going to be released and into the same location. That seems to be a big win as far as all the critics of that August 11th order are concerned.
I think this is a very balanced order that has come out today. The most important feature is that, they are asking all the stakeholders to come intervene and help the government. We must understand that the government alone can't deal with this. They will need help from people like us, NGOs, smaller NGOs, feeders, everyone who's looking after the stray dogs. And the most important thing is that, they are releasing the dogs which were, captured illegally and just kept in shelters which are non-existent. They were just kept in ABC units one top of the other. So I think this is a very balanced order which has come out. Yes, there are some grey areas for which we will seek clarification, but as of now, I'm very happy with the order.
How many dogs were picked up, when the August 11th order came in? And today, between the 11th of August order and what has come today, how many dogs were actually picked up and where did they take them?
So the official statement from the mayor office is 1,200 dogs. So 1,200 dogs have definitely been picked up. They would be the dogs for which they have the documentation. But our estimate is anything between 1,500 to 1,800 dogs. And they have currently been kept in the 20 ABC units that are functioning, not shelters. We must keep in mind that Delhi government as of now has no shelters. So they are all kept in the ABC units.
All right. Ditej, come in on this. The shelters, the problem of the numbers. Let's do a little bit of a number crunching here. How much of budget is allocated? How much of budget do we really need? How many dogs in the national capital? And how much money is needed to neuter them, catch them, vaccinate them, and then keep a tab on who's aggressive, who's not aggressive, who decides first and foremost what's a rabid dog and what's an aggressive dog, and then putting them out. Give us a number crunch here for the viewers to better understand what's really the problem and how do we solve it?
So in Delhi, there is an estimate that there are about 8 to 9 lakh dogs. Obviously, there has not been a census that has been done, so there is no way to know that for sure. But as an estimate, there are about 8 lakh dogs. And in Delhi, there are only 20 ABC centers. When we say ABC centers, it is specific. It is very, very important for people to understand that the infrastructure of a shelter is very different from an ABC center. An ABC center is a place where dogs are confined, they are operated, because they have to be released back in 5 to 7 days after recovery. In Delhi itself, there are only 20 ABC centers which can house about 80 to 90 dogs at a time. At a time, yes. And a dog in particular takes about 5 to 7 days to get neutered. So if all of them work tirelessly 365 days a year, they have about 70 to 72 cycles which they can do of sterilization. So you multiply 70 by about their capacity of 80 to 90 by 20 ABC centers. They have the infrastructure to neuter 1 lakh dogs as of now, which is very, very low.
And we have in the national capital about 8 to 10 lakh dogs, and undocumented number could be up above that.
Yes. In fact, we were having a call with an expert, who did this mission rabies in Goa, and they were told that, when they came to Goa, they were told that there are only 30,000 dogs in Goa, but when they actually did the census and started vaccination, they had 1.5 lakh dogs, right? That's 5 times. So if, let's say, someone says there are 3 lakh dogs, it could be 15 lakh dogs. You never know.
So for the 8 lakh dogs in Delhi, how much money do we need?
I believe that if you have to do quality sterilizations, quality vaccinations, and everything, and you don't want this problem to come back again and again, you need at least 25 to 3,000 rupees per dog, and you multiply it by 8 lakhs, and you have the number. And obviously, you can't neuter all the 8 lakh dogs at once, across a year. Although that is what should be done because dogs multiply rapidly; they multiply like twice a year. So we need a way wherein you're always up in the game. So let's say if you're neutering 1 lakh dogs, about 60 to 70,000 new puppies are already on the streets. So you have to be very, very strategic about it. You pick up female dogs first. You pick up dogs, who are territorial in nature, and then you club all this strategy together to find out the first 2 lakh dogs, first 3 lakh dogs to neuter, and the problem with dog bites and all these problems will drastically come down.
Okay. Manvi is also with us, representing the Udgam Foundation. Manvi, when you're talking about the SC order that came in today, there was some sort of an olive branch that has been extended by the SC to the NGOs and the dog lovers. That how about we solve this problem, come down to the table together. What needs to be done now? Because people have been saying this seems to be the same old wine packaged in the same bottle, in a different bottle, and we're back at square one. Where do we move from here and where to?
See, the rules, existing ABC rules, have everything laid down. And so Supreme Court already has, a guideline to follow. And I think this would be very beneficial if local NGOs and, caretakers and feeders are included in this because they have knowledge ground level. Plus, as Ditej said, an MCD unit is very different from an NGO, right? So, whereas the NGOs are also doing this work. Local NGOs have been vaccinating, have been doing the sterilization program, the ABC program. So I think this is a good call where the Supreme Court has said that everybody, who they should be involved in this. And people who have the knowledge from ground level, they being part of this would be very beneficial.
Do you see the same amount of people that took to the streets when the diktat came on the 11th of August? There were protests. Of course, so many videos doing round on social media, fiascos and tussles with the police, cops, people said crack down on animal activists. On the other hand, you had dog lovers who kept on saying that, they're cracking down on us for no reason, even when the order wasn't even uploaded, which is why the Chief Justice set this order and we're sitting on this latest order. Do you think the same amount of people will now come in, join hands with the NGOs, join hands with, like-minded people yourself? Do we have the wherewithal, the social fabric to take this forward?
Absolutely. I think instead of them coming to us, NGOs would have to reach out to them. There's not a single street where we don't have caretakers and feeders. And you have to keep in mind there are areas like urban villages. How does MCD plan to tackle this problem? You cannot, have your MCD vans going into Hosrani, Kotla, Mubarakpur. There you have to reach out to these feeders, and it would be very beneficial because these dogs recognize these feeders. They are comfortable with them. You don't have to use inhumane methods to catch them where, your vans cannot go as well. So definitely, and I would say that the local caretakers, feeders, they already have their families, they have their jobs. So we local NGOs need to map out the city, our areas, and reach out to them and seek their help. And it would be even more beneficial. I 100%, and I think I can proudly say that they all would want to do this with us because all of us, whether it's feeders, NGOs, we also don't want dogs dying on the streets, coming under cars. We also want a better life for them, and we want the numbers to come down.
And I'm going to ask this question to all of the three panelists that are with me right now, but starting with you, it's a 20-page order, it's a long order. Are there some areas that you still think are a little bit grey, that you are not, you think are still confusing a little bit?
Absolutely, there is grey area. And, those grey areas can actually, the gap between the haters and lovers, that can increase. So the order is not 100% in favor of the haters or the lovers. It's a very confusing order. And those grey areas need to be tackled as soon as possible. For example, saying that, you cannot feed dogs on the streets and you have to designate an area. Now, most of the dogs, 80% of the dogs, are on the streets. Right? How do we reach out to the MCD, and how does an MCD decide where on the street or on the footpath you have to designate this area? then again, they've said, for aggressive dogs, they have to be picked up. Who decides a dog is aggressive? For a human being, when you say this person is an antisocial element or this person is not safe for the society, there are methods, there are doctors, there are people, there are authorities who decide, there are guidelines how you decide. Now, anybody can call up an MCD unit and say, this dog is aggressive. How do you decide? So for that, you need an animal behaviorist. You need a veterinary person to decide. Just because you're scared of dogs, you cannot call up and say, yeah, aggressive hai. Or just because a dog was barking or chasing a bike, you just say this dog is aggressive. That's not, agreeable. We will not agree on that, at least as dog lovers. You have to get into the psychology, you have to get into the behavior, and for those things, you need a specialist. You just can't call up and say, helpline number ab aa gaya, so you can call up and get any dog picked up. So naturally, you have to come up with stricter policies, more clearer guidelines, so that it eases out the differences between us.
Ditej, Manvi made a very strong point about who decides where these feeding areas are going to be designated. These days, in a park, a proper bench, there's so much politics and whether a bench should be constructed, whether a bench should be put up or not. This seems to be too much of an uphill battle right now because neither do we have the money, neither do we have the capacity. The dogs are about 8 to 10 lakh and there are people out there who simply just want them to vanish from the entire equation, which again is going to be a major biological problem later on and an ecological problem as well. But who decides where the feeding areas are going to be created? And it sounds really funny in my head how I'm playing it out.
So, as per the order, MCD decides, right? Are MCD people experts on that? They are not. So, obviously, they'll have to take inputs. Now, inputs will come from two different parties, people who feed dogs, people who hate dogs. Now, we'll have to understand how balanced will they be in their understanding of where feeding points should be. For example, if there is a block which has 4 different lanes, and we know dogs are territorial in nature, dogs from one lane do not go to other lanes, and vice versa. So we have to have, if there are 4 lanes, we have to have 4 feeding points. Now, structurally, is it possible that there are 4 secluded areas in those different four different lanes? Possibly not, right? So it is still an uphill battle. Yes, Supreme Court has specifically said, and I would reiterate, they said that feeding points will be designated basis the concentration and population of the dogs in a municipal ward. So obviously they are wary of the fact that you can't have one feeding point for 50 dogs, but it is still subjective. You don't know whether there are small packs of 2, 3
What
dogs.
is the ideal distribution? One feeding space should cater to how many dogs?
See, again, it depends on the pack. So as I said, dogs are territorial. So till the time they have a territory, from point A to point B, if there are 5 dogs in the territory, they should have one feeding point. But in another lane, if there are 2 dogs in a territory, they should have one feeding
Like a delimitation process when the elections are on, territories and constituencies are demarcated. Are we getting there now? Will we have to start demarcating territories?
See, August 11th order did that, okay? It created a faction of dog lovers and dog haters in a country where we are always divided on different things, in our opinions on religion, in our opinions on politics. There's another opinion on which we are now, in splits. Someone is a polarized dog lover, someone is a polarized dog hater. But obviously, like we are managing all our conflicts, right, from Hindu-Muslim conflicts to BJP versus Congress conflicts, this is a conflict that we need to manage internally. And we believe that as NGOs, our first step will not be to go in the face of the organizations, RWs and all, and say that, okay, we won. No. We are going to work back with them. We are still going to extend a helping hand to them. And if they are willing to work back with us, if they are actually willing to have a solution, then we are more than happy to work with them. There are people who want solutions. There are people who want drama, right? We want solution as animal lovers. And now we are asking the animal haters, do you want a solution? Do you want drama? If you want a solution, come work with us. You walk a little bit, we will walk a little bit, and let's solve this problem without, we won't even need to go to court to solve that problem.
All right. Well, one can only hope that this kind of good sense prevails. But, the dogged pursuit that Ditej is talking about here, Divya. And on the other hand, you have the positive outcomes, pun intended, coming from the Supreme Court. What role can now the animal lovers and the NGOs play a little bit more better? And there's this money aspect as well. NGOs to cough up about 25,000 rupees and different kind of money. Help the viewers understand that point as well. And is that a good step with the Supreme Court now asking for a little bit more accountability? And you yourself as a dog lover and your like-minded people, I think there's a lot of lack of awareness out there. People think that the dog is aggressive or rabid or feral, but they don't know why the dog might be aggressive or how they can, make their own young ones understand not to go near a dog, how to understand the behavior of a dog so as to protect themselves and not vitiate the atmosphere any further.
I think there are many layers here. I think first and foremost, we have no data with us. Neither do we as NGOs. We would have probably a small amount of data. MCD has no data. I think the ownership is now coming on us to provide them data so that, they know that what are the numbers we are talking about. What are the numbers that we are talking about are sterilized, vaccinated. And, rabies deaths are always hyped. This is the media created hype which says as per their own submission there has been no rabies death in Delhi since 2022. So for them to go back and say that so many people have died of rabies is absolutely baseless. And it's a positive step because government has miserably failed on this. MCD has failed to do ABC for the past 25 years. And if we want to save these animals on the streets, animal lovers, NGOs have to step up. Yes, it's a cost on us. It's an additional burden because we pay taxes. Why do we pay taxes? And it's our right of freedom and our right to have justice, and a cost is being imposed. We have to pay that, but I think we now have to come down and say that this is the accountability which was to be done by MCD, and we are the ones who are doing the job. MCD gets paid, they get salary to do this, and they are not doing this. We as animal lovers, as NGOs, as people, who are compassionate towards animals are doing this. And yes, now our work also increases because we have to incorporate all lovers and, make sure that there is peaceful coexistence, which we aim at. These dogs can't disappear. We've been living with them for so many years. And all this is, the menace is a media created hype. We have to understand there is no menace in our country. We are peacefully coexisting, and there's so many good stories, where these dogs have really helped in catching the robbers, or alerting for a robbery. Latest was the cloudburst in Mandi, where this small puppy alerted an entire village and saved so many lives.
Yeah, the puppy's name was Rocky.
Yeah, and was then
Held them from a rock slide.
exactly. So I don't understand that why there has to be a menace.
But then what do you say to the people who've lost their loved ones? I mean, you're making quite a prudent point, but considering, if I'm somebody who's lost their child got mauled, and most of the times, these are people who don't belong to the upper echelons of society. So again, the critics come out and say that the higher ups are sitting inside their gated colonies. It's the poor who are out there on the streets. But dog lovers come out and say that the dogs are community dogs. They end up saving them as well. Like she pointed out, robberies don't happen. We have canine units. There is a lack of understanding here. How do we bridge this gap, Ditej? Very quickly, and then final question to Manvi.
See, first of all, we empathize with all the people who have been subject to rabies and dog bites. If someone has lost their loved one, we empathize with them. Now, where does the accountability lie, right? And I'm not saying that, we are not part of the problem. We are, but we are also part of the solution, right? In India, ABC rules were implemented back in 2001. It was mandatory to vaccinate dogs against rabies. In 24 years, we have not been able to eradicate rabies. A country which has eradicated polio, which has significantly brought down so many different diseases.
For the COVID.
Yeah. So it's a country which has managed to contain COVID at such a massive scale. Why did it fail to contain a disease like rabies, which can easily be prevented with the injections? Now, again, as I said, we empathize with the people who have died. But that's where, that advocacy part comes in. We have to work on ground with animals to make them more friendly, right? To control their population, but we also have to go ahead and spread awareness. And that awareness has to, seep in from the upper, echelons, as you talk about, to the lower, income group people. Because it is not right to not have knowledge about things. Just because you are unaware of something does not mean that thing is bad, right? So, we have to include that in school curriculums. We have to, go out, do outreach programs. We have to go out and do vaccination camps. We have to go out and help people out. Probably like as we are doing a Rabies Mukt Bharat campaign, wherein we are going to, unite all the NGOs, all the volunteers, and all the feeders across India. We will be launching our own helpline as well, wherein people can call if let's say someone has been bitten. That person can call and then.
When is all of this going to be done? But I mean, look, it sounds really good, and it would really look good to read on paper as well. But implementation, execution is the key. And I don't mean to put you in a spot here, but I mean, can you give the viewers a little bit of a tentative idea about how and when you're planning to execute this?
We have already started that. Okay, so we have a page, Rabies Mukt Bharat, wherein people can go, they can register themselves as either an NGO or a volunteer or a feeder. We started on the ground first by vaccinating dogs outside CM's house. Dogs which were not vaccinated for over a year. Okay, and we.
The current CM's house.
CM's house, yes, in Shalimar Bagh. And there was a complaint which was made by the animal lovers 3 months ago, asking for vaccination, and they were told that they don't have vaccines.
A quick little segue. Let's just tell the viewers there are two kinds of dog lovers here. One who goes and attacks the chief minister, and the other ones that have started sterilizing and vaccinating dogs right outside Shalimar Bagh.
Yeah. So we started by doing that. Okay, that was the first step towards showing that we want solutions, right? There are disruptive people, but we are also constructive people, right? And then we have at least 15,000 to 20,000 requests from different factions of NGOs, animal lovers across India who want to join with us. So we are now trying to mobilize all the vaccines because we have to look into the cold chain, set up SOPs and all those things. And on ground, wherever we have those SOPs set in within our array of NGOs, who are on the same page, we have already started doing that. We have started doing it in tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities. Yesterday, there was vaccination done in.
If you don't mind me asking, where do you get the money from?
From donations from people and sometimes from CSR.
So there are well-wishers out there who are willing to put their money in this.
Absolutely. Like even now, as Divya said, we have to pay 2 lakh rupees to the court. We will be able to do that. See, as Divya said, we are.
Why has the court asked you to pay 2 lakh rupees? 25,000 for individuals and 2 lakh rupees for groups.
See, I don't know why they did that. It could be because of 2 reasons. A, they want more accountability from people. Or B, to discourage anyone from, going ahead and filing more, petitions.
This is unnecessarily in this aspect.
Because they already have cases. And if you have like 20,000, people filing in a case for the same matter.
That's a great point. Let me ask Manviji this. Now, the Supreme Court says that they've broadened the ambit. They are going to speak to all the MCDs, states, UTs, and the husbandry departments as well. They're going to look at it all, and all the petitions across the country need to come to the Supreme Court.
So
Many a times we think about the next step. Do you think the Supreme Court has already taken the next step and in the right direction by, clutching all of these petitions together and asking them to come to the Supreme Court?
it's the apex body of our country. I'm sure they put a lot of thought into it, and it is definitely a step forward. But as I said before, because of those gray areas, instead of bridging the gap between the haters and the lovers, they've actually increased it. But at this point of time, now we need to work harder. The NGOs, the caretakers, the animal lovers, to take this in a positive direction and not get deterred by what has happened and work forward. And I definitely look at this, at least there is some clarity from the Supreme Court. We are allowed to feed them. Okay, designated areas. They have said that it has to be, rabies free, and you have to sterilize the dogs. That is the step forward. So that's sort of a pressure on us as well and MCD as well. And I think after this, they're going to probably look into this matter more deeply, and they are going to come out with more favorable, conditions and policies for us and the dogs and the haters.
Well said. It seems like the main question that nobody's talking about is the 1,200 dogs on documented paper. Divya here says that could be very well above that number. What happens to those dogs next? How soon are they going to be released? Any idea on that particular front?
So we know that a lot of dogs that have been picked are sterilized dogs. So they should be released immediately. But then it has to be taken. I mean, we want them to take a day. Find out where those dogs were picked from. We don't want them to relocate dogs because relocation is the primary reason why there are bites. Yeah, because you pick up dogs from one location, probably, there are corrupt people who take money and then they drop the dogs at different locations. There is no proper microchipping happening. MCD has an app which is not being used by different ABC centers as well, so they don't have the geotagging. And when those dogs are, left out in different territories, they bite, right? That is the primary reason. So we want them to take a day, map out where those dogs need to be released, release them back in the right locations, and those dogs which are unsterilised, there is always a ruling, already a ruling. You sterilize them, you vaccinate them, then you drop them back in 5 to 7 days.
All right. So all in all, what I've understood is, and of course, any one of you can correct me, it seems to be a little bit of a reprieve for the dog lovers. Still a lot of grey areas, but it seems like the apex body has put its thought in the right place when they've come out with this new diktat, modifying the earlier one. Dogs are going to be released in the same localities that they were picked up from, unless they're rabid or they're feral. Aggression is another aspect one has to take a look at. You need a behaviorist, is what you told us, and we don't know whether we have those behaviorists or not. But the implementation and the execution, whether we have the capacity, whether we have the money to do it, and of course, do we have the will and the manpower to do something like that, is one particular aspect. This is one side of the story. Of course, other people joining us here on the broadcast as well. Let's take some questions from them as well. Manviji, many thanks for joining us here. Ditej, many thanks for taking out the time. Divya, always a pleasure to be speaking to you. With video journalist Rohit, this is Kabir Naqvi for In Your Interest News 9.
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9, English news as it should be.